Denial increases chronic anxiety and stress. Accepting reality can reduce our anxiety and stress. Thirdly, radical acceptance is a guide to taking action for yourself. Radical acceptance, which is what this video is about, it's the third in the 3-video series on secrets to detachment. Radical acceptance helps us to return to a self-focused rather than other-focused perspective. It increases our detachment. And so many have asked me about how can they detach more. They want to learn to detach more and not be as reactive to other people or be enmeshed with other people. So let's talk about the first one. Denial increases chronic anxiety and stress. Radical acceptance is about accepting life on life's terms. It's saying yes to life as it is. When we refuse to accept reality, we practice denial and resistance to reality. This creates an internal conflict. It creates internal chronic anxiety and real suffering. Have you ever said, I can't stand this. This isn't fair. This can't be true. When are they going to change? And we've probably all said those at one time or another. And it's our inability at that point to accept the reality of what is. Accepting reality, we will experience accepting pain. There is some pain when we accept reality. But not accepting reality, we experience non-accepting pain and chronic suffering. The good news is suffering is optional, pain is not. And what we want to reduce is that chronic suffering and chronic anxiety. Jason wants his parents to accept his new religious beliefs and what he's chosen, what church to go to. They're often critical of him and keep trying to convert him to their beliefs or to the family faith that they had growing up. He complains to them. He doesn't feel accepted. He isn't seen as an adult, and their criticisms are painful, and doesn't like the never-ending arguments every time or often when he is with them. Jason tries to get his parents to see his point of view, to validate his choice of religion or faith, and that he's an adult. It hurts every time they engage on these topics. And he usually ends up with a hangover emotionally, and it may take a day or two or more to get over this encounter around this topic. Can you begin to see the chronic suffering and not just the pain of the struggle, but the chronic suffering of it? There is ongoing suffering Jason endures based on his denial about his parents and who they are. What Jason needs to work, what does Jason need to work on accepting the reality? He will never get his parents' approval. Acceptance from them that his choice of spirituality is his to make, and that he no longer is their child. He's an adult. And that some boundaries may need to be shared to eliminate this chronic conflict. By avoiding those, he has pain and suffering. By accepting reality, he can have some pain, but a lot less suffering. Now, to do this may hurt or have some pain, but hopefully it will lessen this suffering and the chronic anxiety that goes along with it. Radical acceptance can aid us in reducing chronic suffering. Secondly, accepting reality can reduce our anxiety. Accepting reality does not mean we just roll over and just become helpless. That isn't what accepting reality is. And it's also important that acceptance or accepting reality is not approval or putting a rubber stamp or approving what someone is doing. It's accepting what someone is doing. Jason may not agree with how his parents interact with him about his beliefs, but he can accept them and make a proper adjustment in how he behaves or relates to them. I would recommend Andrew Harris's article, Radical Acceptance in a Time of Uncertainty. You can find that online. We just acknowledge that denying the facts of reality will not change the facts, but keeps us stuck in thoughts like, this is unfair, why me, why now, when are they going to change, why don't they change? And that whole process of going through those difficult thoughts and feelings creates a lot of suffering for us. We begin to reduce our overall anxiety, and especially our chronic anxiety, if we accept what is. By the way, we may come from generations of reality deniers. Many of us do. In fact, I would say probably all families have generations of chronic reality deniers. And accepting reality can reduce that intergenerational anxiety and pain that flows from one generation to another. My radical acceptance can help reduce anxiety for those who follow after me, my kids, my grandkids, and also for others in my life. I like the movie that I mentioned in the last video on secret number 2, Bridge of Spies, by Tom Hanks and Mark Rylance. It was made in 2015 by Steven Spielberg. Tom Hanks is the attorney, Mark Rylance is the Soviet spy, and he's rather mature, low anxiety, calm, and accepts what is. Tom Hanks is his attorney. He faces a death sentence because of his spying, and Tom Hanks is all upset and all worried and in a fury. What this could mean the electric chair for you to do this. Why aren't you upset? And Mark Rylance, the Soviet spy, says, well, would it help? And I like that response because basically it's saying, for me to engage in this non-acceptance of reality is not going to help the reality and not going to help me. And Tom Hanks really has to stop and think for a minute that, hey, he's right. Would it help? Not really. It just would add to the anxiety that we're pinging each other with. Thirdly, radical acceptance can guide you in your self-regulation and what you need to do for you. When Jason accepts his non-accepting parents, he can now make choices how he wants to relate to them and to do self-care. Once we see the reality, we then have an opportunity to make a real change in the system and to actually care for myself better. He can put into place a boundary of, hey, I will not be discussing religion with you, Mom and Dad. I just would rather not do that. I want to take this discussion off the table. Feel free to pray for me, talk to God about me, but I don't wish to have the conversation about my faith or beliefs. I hope you will respect this. And if you notice, I'm talking from a self-focused perspective, not, and you need to be doing this, and I want you to stop that, and I want you to stop feeling that way, and I want you to stop thinking that way. No, I'm asking and telling you what I'm going to be doing and making this request. We're going to take this off the table. I'm not going to be engaging in this discussion. Then 2 years from now, when they come to accept that boundary, we might be able to talk about religion again. But until then, they're way too invested in changing Jason. And until that you needing to change me burns out of you, I don't want to have that discussion with you. If you want to have a discussion about it that's equal and mutual and respectful, well, then we can do that. We can find many examples of us not accepting reality by looking at our should be statements and should be beliefs. A, my parents should accept me. My parents give conditional acceptance or conditional love, or which they have learned growing up from their family of origin. I don't need their acceptance to be an adult. I need mine. I need my acceptance. B, a husband should meet my needs. My husband should meet my needs for companionship and intimacy. My husband is limited in what he can give to me and meeting my needs emotionally. I've asked for years for him to do this. I've cried, I've argued, I've yelled, I've talked, I've done all the things. I will be happier, and I've asked for years, and my trying harder or giving more has not changed him or changed this issue. I will be happier if I decide this is the husband that I have. Then I will work on leaving or staying. I can do that with a professional, and or seek ways I can meet my own companionship needs through friends and emotional needs through inner bonding. In other words, begin to learn to meet my emotional needs with me. Margaret Paul has a good book, Inner Bonding, that I would recommend. C, my friends should be more empathetic. And again, the should be's are clues to places where we need to accept reality. Mary, my friend, is insensitive at times, and she lacks empathy. I've shared my concerns with her, but she seems hardwired to bulldoze my feelings at times. It would be best if I look for empathy and understanding elsewhere and make other friends or share with a more understanding, empathetic friend. I still enjoy going to concerts with her, but maybe I should limit my emotional sharing from her because I'm needing her empathy in that way. If you notice, I'm accepting the reality, looking at ways I can meet those things for me, and taking the pressure off that, and not going through the suffering every time Mary isn't empathetic, and I need or want that and expect that from her. D, I should be further along in life now. At my age, I should be further along in my career and with having a lifelong partner. This is where I am right now. It is what it is. I do deserve love, understanding, and acceptance, and I will begin to learn how to give these to myself. Because when we should ourselves, and that's often, should is a shaming word. I should be further along in life now. It's me pointing at myself and shaming myself. Understanding that given my past, I'm probably lucky to be where I'm at presently. And I've had many struggles to overcome in life. I can start making changes today and learn more about how I can achieve what I would like to have in my life. Who do I need to work with? What do I need to learn? What videos do I need to watch? What books do I need to read to help myself with changes that I want to make, rather than shaming myself and not accepting myself. E, I shouldn't be afraid of my brother and how he acts. I shouldn't be afraid of my brother and how he acts. My brother has been this way for decades. I've tried talking to him to no avail. I've even suggested family therapy. He behaves meanly, aggressively, and angry, moody, and is often misunderstands what I feel, say, or do to him, even when I've done nothing to offend him. My brother and I are different and see the world and ourselves very differently. Given that acceptance, now what would I like to do with my brother? I choose to accept these things and choose to accept this is how he is, and that I can either stand up for myself more with him, I can learn to care less about what he thinks or does, or I could limit my time with him. I have all of those adult choices I can work on. So when I read these should be statements and accept the reality, there is some pain or grief or loss in accepting my fantasy and what I want to have, how I want other people to be. There is a grief or a loss with that. So there is some pain with accepting these limitations. However, I also feel relief that I'm dealing with what really is. My suffering decreases and self-care can increase. And I can explore more reality-based options, which will help reduce the suffering. I want to thank you for joining me today. Have a great day and be wise.